Guess who has a personal laptop now and doesn't have to subject themselves to strange looks at the library. Now I'll be able to post here more frequently and maybe properly answer your comments. A lot has happened this past week. I almost lost a finger trying to open a frozen pack of meat with an old knife, got enough money for a crappy computer, and even a proper, slightly used bed. But before I delve into my horrible memories covered in sulfur, there are a few things I need to clarify. It was brought to my attention that even though I talk a lot about myself, I kind of forgot to say anything about me. So yeah, I guess a little introduction is long overdue. You all can call me Nate, short for Nathaniel. When I died, I was 35 years old. After that, I remained 35 for a few centuries. The concept of age kind of loses its importance when you die. One of the few positives, I'd say. Without beating around the bush, I'm not a good person. If I were, all these posts wouldn't exist, after all. Before I died, I would have never admitted to this. I was blinded by greed and pride. I probably would have said some bullshit like, "Oh, I'm not evil, I'm just realistic. In today's world, to stay on top, you must keep others down." I asked not to be glorified in any part of this. I remember several occasions that would make you realize what a shitty person I am, even though I'm currently trying to change. Anyway, we'll have plenty more time to talk about me after we get the important things out of the way. Today's post is important, so pay attention. And remember, when the moon disappears in lust, beware the one who sings in the dark. Almost all newcomers, with very few exceptions, fall into it while crossing the thin veil of reality upon death. It is essentially a mixed zone that combines small samplings of everything the Nine Circles offer. An area mainly populated by low-caste demons, small fallen angels, and newcomers, most of whom are desperate for an exit and have no idea what to expect there. Therefore, lust is used as a hunting ground by various things, from demons to even humans. Perhaps if I had known how low humans had to sink to survive in that place, I would have been more cautious and wouldn't have suffered so much. It had been some time since I was taken from the clutches of my captor. Some flashes came to my mind, the reoccurring torture sessions, that person appearing without any indication, the descent down the spire wall while I was tied to their body like a backpack. The path I was being led through was torturous. Ahead of me lay plains of obsidian covered by a thin layer of ashes. In the distance, a chain of twisted mountains stretched towards the sky. For a moment, I allowed myself to falter. I thought I was being rescued and taken to some kind of refuge. I imagined myself filling my belly with succulent meat, sleeping on a soft bed, and quenching my thirst with pure crystalline water. Friends aren't tied up. When I noticed the tightly twisted wire on my hands and feet, I tried to protest, to throw myself off their back, to cut myself free, but I was terribly weak. The person carrying me noticed that I was awake. I still remember perfectly my first interaction with that sneaky son of a bitch.
Look who woke up. You're very unlucky, you know. Angel's plaything the first few days. And they say I don't stand a chance in this place.
I couldn't see his face behind all the cloths, but I had a feeling he was smiling. "Who are you? Where are you taking me?"
My, such rude fresh meat. Not even a hi or hello. Shit, I would accept a how was your day.
Well, it's not like you're being very polite now.
Hey, I'm a veteran, so I get a pass.
Do you want to tell me where the fuck you're taking me already? I'm not playing games with you, man.
Neither am I, young fella. You, my friend, are Jack's property now. You were on his turf, you know. So now he gets to do whatever he fucking wants with you.
Turf? I was being eaten alive by some horse monster, creepy hybrid all the way up that giant thing. How does that constitute as his turf? Please, I just want to go home and see my wife. That dirty rat let out a laugh, interrupted by a horrible dry cough.
Home. This is your home now, buddy. Haven't you realized yet? Poor thing. That's why you became an angelic snack. There's not a single good screw in that empty head of yours. But don't worry. Even useless ones like you are replacing Jack's empire. Just wait until I deliver you. He'll be so proud. Maybe you'll even give me my own wife. A little plaything just for me.
No matter how much I struggled, I couldn't free myself. Fatigue and hunger took their toll. All I could think about was this Jack character. I had no plans of being taken so easily. But until I recovered, there wasn't much I could do. For hours we walked beneath the turbulent clouds of Gehenna. Occasionally, a cacophony of deep, uninterrupted cries would emerge in the distance. During these moments, my new captor would lay still on the ground and cover himself with dust. Something was following us. My limited experience with infernal beings told me that we couldn't stay still. My heart raced every second we stayed there, exposed, motionless on the ground. But I dared not express my discontent. I feared that whatever that thing was, it could hear me and find us. At that moment, I was in a sea of emotions. Part of me relieved to have left the spire, another part terribly scared of not knowing what fate awaited me at the end of our journey. It felt like I was out of the frying pan and into the fire. As we resumed our path, I noticed that, for the first time, the sky was clear. We were far enough from the cursed city to escape its influence. Looking back, I could see the perfect, unnatural circle of clouds covering Gehenna and the surrounding areas. I could see insect-like beasts flying towards the city, drawn to it like moths to a flame, making it their lair, their hunting grounds, and forever home. But for some reason, I felt that going that far off the metropolis was equally dangerous. Maybe it was the stillness in the air. Maybe the messed up situation I found myself in, but all of my senses were on high alert and didn't seem to want to calm down anytime soon. The clear sky gave me my first ever vision of the moon, or, if you want to follow the locals, the eye of the behemoth. A gigantic globe of flesh up in the sky. Stare at it too much and you figure out why they call it an eye. It seems to watch your every move once you're out of the city bounds, like some kind of twisted guard. My captor didn't seem to mind its presence, but I couldn't take my eyes off it. The way it pulsated every once in a while, it felt alive and conscious. After some time walking, we got to some kind of camp made in haste. A few big loose rocks put together in a tent formation, an unlit bonfire, and what seemed to be beds made out of black leaves and ragged cloths. Didn't look comfortable at all. That rat threw me on the ground by the bonfire and sat inside the tent.
Now, my dear fella, we will wait for the other collectors, which might take a while. So behave, and no loud noises, got it? Or else your one-way ticket to Silver City will have to be revoked, 'cause you'll be dead. I'll cut your throat and eat you right here.
Eat me? What kind of sick bastard are you?
The kind that stays alive no matter what. And if you keep on babbling like that, I won't be the only problem you'll have to face.
As if following a cue, the loud and deep cries of some creature echoed in the distance. I made sure to lower my voice after that. What the fuck was that?
Shut up if you don't want to find out.
I wanted to ask about Jack, the Silver City, the collectors, but my fear spoke louder than my curiosity, so I just gave up and waited, not knowing what was hunting us in the dark. The eye was growing ever so slightly by the minute, its vision a constant reminder that safety was but an illusion, bound to break any time soon. As if confirming my fears, the eye once again began to change, this time growing darker and darker, as if its flesh was spoiling before my very eyes.
Oh crap, not now.
That moment, I knew we were in some deep shit. The sinner looked at me, considered something in his head, and gave up.
Well, you're in luck, pal. I can't afford to let you die after all the trouble I went through just to get you here,
he said, getting up in a hurry and pushing me inside the tent. What's happening? Why is the moon gone? Looking up, I couldn't see the eye anymore. I felt like it was still there somewhere, just so embraced by darkness it was impossible to find it. Bit by bit, a strange shadow descended from the sky and into the land. Everything was engulfed in a cold void. I couldn't see. I tried to speak but was unable to hear my own voice. I couldn't even feel anything other than that cruel presence. I don't think I will ever forget it. It was like I could feel its sadness. Something was circling the camp, taking gentle steps toward the middle. I was quivering. It was so cold that it hurt to breathe. I could barely think. And then I heard it sing. The Circle of Lust houses one of the most dangerous of the 7 deadly sins, one of the biggest hunters of men and corrupters of heart, the succubus. Not a succubus, I'm talking about the original one, the primordial being that gave birth to the whole species, the one that still haunts the human plane and was the inspiration for dozens of tales across the globe. The mermaid, the huldra, the lighterk, all but facades of the same unholy being. The same one that chose us as prey. When it sang, I felt like I was using cocaine for the first time again. The high was immediate and powerful. It came in waves, lifting me up into the sky, only to let me fall into despair. I needed her. I was nothing without her. I tried to fight, to free myself and run towards endless joy and pleasure, but something kept me from doing it. It started to sing louder and louder, getting angrier and sounding less angelic with each passing second. Suddenly, that dreamlike, almost orgasmic in nature state I was in changed into a complete nightmare. It was no longer asking. It demanded my surrender. My senses came back to me, only to bring me more pain. The first thing I saw was fire, covering my body and burning me alive. My skin was melting before my very eyes. My mind froze trying to understand the creature standing outside the tent. The torso of a woman, hips and legs like those of a spider. Where its arms would be, 2 bat-like wings extended several feet in length. Its head reminded me of a perfect genderless mannequin, except it had no eyes, ears, or nose, only one big circular mouth covering its entire face.
Don't look at it. It'll break your mind.
But it was already too late. It was getting tired of waiting. I could feel its wrath. It no longer wished to toy with us. Now it was going in for the kill. My mind was buzzing. I felt a killer migraine getting worse and worse. I felt the urge to vomit, blood coming out of my nose. We were about to die. But then I heard a weird chant followed by a deafening shot. The succubus screamed in pain, breaking the spell and rushing towards the newcomers.
You guys took your sweet fucking time, didn't you?
With my blurred vision, I could barely see the group standing on top of the hill. I was able to distinguish black robes and torches. Some were carrying rifles adorned with weird flowers.
Shut up and get your ass over here, mice. We need to go now.
Once again, I was being carried away from danger, the buzzing of shots still roaring in my ears. I could see other naked sinners, probably newcomers like me, chained up on top of an old modded pickup truck, with spikes and plates of metal all around it. The last thing I remember before blacking out was the cry of pure rage from the succubus and a wave of pain passing through my body. I really need to start getting ready for my shift now, so I guess I'll stop here for today. In any society, communities exist to create hope, a better future, and security for all. People get together to do things they aren't able to do themselves. But in hell, as well as any other place, the corruption at the heart of humanity eventually breaks down every society, turning it into a play where only a select few control the strings, and make sure everything works towards fulfilling their sadistic dreams. Somehow, in the Silver City, things can get even worse. I was about to learn that. There's something up here with me. Since I returned to the world of the living, I've been doing my best to become an active member of society again and try and earn my ticket to heaven in the meantime. Even though I can't afford this luxury right now, I always donate a portion of my salary to charity, do volunteer work on the weekends, and help out at a community kitchen on Thursdays after work. All of this is to avoid going back there. But I don't know how well this can work, nor do I know if by gaining this new life, I also received a new chance. There's something I haven't told you. The truth is that my torment hasn't completely stopped. Since I returned from the dead, my nights are filled with agony and terror. The nightmares are terrible, but when I wake up shrouded in the darkness of my room, I can sometimes discern things in the shadows. Arachnid-like forms with dozens of eyes and mouths that sing profanities. Throughout the day, I can still see them in the corner of my eye, almost like a permanent silhouette, a reminder that they're watching me, just waiting for my last breath to take me back via the VIP express lane. I think Samiel didn't like being deceived one bit. Now, however, it's not the time to recount my escape. There are still many dangers I've yet to warn you about. And if after your death you find yourself wandering through the infernal circles, surely, at some point, you'll come across the Silver City, the last vestige of community in hell. Gehenna is like a living structure, a fabric composed of buildings, streets, and alleys that stretch vertically through the 9 circles that compose the abyss. When I died, I arose just like many others in lust in the 3rd circle of hell, contrary to what Alagahiri claimed. The real order of the circles would be limbo, greed, lust, wrath, gluttony, heresy, violence, treachery, and finally, pride. The goal of the collectors was set like a jewel in the center of limbo. It's funny. In Dante's work, the city is portrayed as a paradise away from heaven for those with good hearts who never accepted Jesus into their lives. Their only punishment would be never to glimpse the face of God. Damn, I wish it were like that. I woke up with the metallic taste of blood still in my mouth. A gentle voice was saying something, but my ears ringing, I couldn't make out anything. I could tell there was something in front of me. The smell was good. My stomach reminded me I was yet to eat anything. Without much choice, I accepted the charity and ate. The taste was surprisingly good. If I were to describe it, it's something close to pork. I spent some time just eating and recovering. I was also given a canteen of warm water. It tasted weird, but it was not like I was going to complain. As my senses returned, I could understand what the young man in front of me was saying. I still remember his face, without any bruises, shallow beard, and a glimmer of hope that didn't match that place at all.
Feeling better now?
I guess. Oh, where are we now? Is that thing still here? I tried sitting, but a sharp pain in my chest stopped me from moving.
Hey, take it easy now. You're so skinny you look like a twig. When was the last time you ate?
About 10 seconds ago. He smiled a bit.
Well, at least now you're good enough to enjoy the ride.
With that, I felt prompted to look around and finally noticed that we were on the back of a strange pickup truck. Not only that, some sort of locomotive seemed to form around us. In total, there were 4 vehicles. Our pickup stood at the center, with metal plaques around its frame and sharp grates on the end confining us. On our left, an old Mustang suffered to keep itself close, traveling on such uneven terrain. On our right, I could see Mice on top of an old motorcycle giggling to himself. I silently wished he crashed. Leading the group ahead, I could see the rear of a black van, and finally, following behind, I saw what appeared to be a Honda with smashed windows and covered in dents. Where are they taking us?
I have no idea, but anything must be better than these fucking fields.
Recalling Mice's delusion, I wasn't so sure about that. Wait, who are you? Are you with them too?
I think we're in the same boat, buddy.
The last guy who called me buddy tied me up and dragged me into the clutches of a monster.
I don't like them one bit, but from what I saw when we arrived, he was trying to protect you.
So you really are one of them?
I already said we're in the same shithole. I got caught by the masked one while trying to hunt dinner,
he said, pointing out the window towards the driver of the pickup. A tall, muscular man wearing a strange wooden mask. Sorry, the past few days have been so... God. If you only knew what I've been through. The young man chuckled sincerely.
Friend, I'm sure whatever you've been through, I've lived it dozens of times already. The name's John. Nice to meet you.
Well, John, you can call me Nate. I would shake your hand, but... I nudged towards the wires on my hands.
Could be worse.
He gestured towards his feet. They were chopped off. Holy shit! I'm sorry, John. These guys are insane!
Don't be. They'll be back once I die. But I have a feeling they will not let that happen so soon.
We could already see the spire slowly coming into view on the horizon. You sound used to all this.
Don't tell me. You're new?
I still can't believe this is all real.
You better come to terms with it fast. This place doesn't take pity on the weak.
We didn't feel like chatting after that. I wanted to ask about what I was given to eat, but something told me I'd be better off not knowing. We traveled far towards the spire, Gehenna slowly embracing us again with its dark skies. From up close, I was able to see an opening in the base of the spire. The twisted terrain of the fields gave way to broken roads and dusted buildings. Screams of despair found their way back to my ears as we passed near the tar pits. Haunted by the memories of my arrival, I couldn't help but search for the beast that mauled me in the confusing streets of the city. I don't know if it was because of the sounds of the engine or the size of our group, but I didn't see them among the wreckage of the alleyways. As we approached the spire, a strange icy breeze embraced us. The shock was so intense that I lost my breath, trembling as I noticed a thin layer of ice forming rapidly on the pickup truck.
Try to control your breathing. It'll pass soon.
What is this?
Specters.
As we finally reached the center of Lust, I realized we were not alone. The base of the spire held an immense arched opening, from which a dark interior was barely visible. Above the entrance, crucified on the wall, I saw a man. The slight movement of his head and his blue eyes made my stomach churn. The culprits for the sudden cold gathered below the man in desperation. There were dozens of them, humanoid beings emitting a faint glow and seeming to levitate. Their cries echoed through the city, spreading along with their icy presence. The man only watched them, one by one, but said nothing. He seemed to be judging them. The engines shut off, and one by one the collectors descended from the vehicles. Mice was the first to approach. The specters recoiled from him like cockroaches fleeing from light. He then looked the man in the eyes, bowed, and said,
"Oh, Aeacus, king of Aegina, my heart is not pure for rest. My eyes are blind to injustice, and my fists only wave for my desires. From dust I came, and to dust I return. My soul judged to forever burn, so I beg you to open the doors to my torment."
The man's eyes locked onto Mice for a moment. Then his lips whispered something in an elaborate tongue, and the darkness of the entrance turned into a scarlet mass. I didn't know about the kings back then. Acus is the easiest to convince. He oversees the higher circles. They say if you're under Minnow's gaze, however, I hope you enjoy the lower circles because he's unlikely to grant you passage. And if you're a special kind of unlucky, I suggest you don't even try to approach Radamantis, unless you want a one-way ticket to Pride. The collectors then pulled us out of the cars, displaying us like trophies in an organized line. I had to support John on my shoulders, otherwise they would have made him crawl the rest of the way. From the other cars, a few more people emerged, other unfortunate souls with the same destination as mine. I saw a beautiful woman with short red hair and brown eyes. She was injured with several cuts on her back. The collector taking her out of the van seemed pleased. I tried not to dwell on it too much. She stared at me intensely, looking scared. A man had to be forcibly removed from the Honda by two collectors. He was big and strong, dark-skinned with furious eyes, long braids cascading from his head to the middle of his back, a terrible scar showing on his left arm. To this day, I have no idea how they managed to capture that bastard. Later, he would tell me that they didn't get him until after he'd taken down some of them. Finally, an old man with a band over his eyes was pushed into line. He looked so worn down that I thought I would see him turning to dust at any moment. Mice then made his way to the entrance and was swallowed by the mass. The collectors forced us to enter. One by one, I saw everyone being pushed into the unknown. Looking around, I tried to think of something. Some escape route.
Don't do anything stupid.
John whispered in my ear.
It won't work.
I thought about throwing him at them and running for my life. I didn't know him, didn't know a damn thing about him except his name. A glance at the collector's weapons made me change my mind. I wouldn't get far even if I did find an opening. Finally, my turn came. With the weight of John still on my shoulders, I walked to the entrance with my heart pounding in fear. The mass that filled it seemed to react to me, stretching to cover my body, the scarlet glow blinding me as the collectors urged me to hurry. I reached out my hand and felt a slight resistance, almost like touching cold gelatin. I felt it pulling me, and before my head was completely swallowed, I held my breath. My body was warm. It was like being bathed in soup, every exposed inch of my skin burning, but the agony was only beginning. I felt that strange mass invading me, entering through my nose, ears, eyes. It hurt. I tried to scream, but my lungs were filled with the alien substance that forced its way through my organs. I felt like I was about to lose consciousness. A shockwave ran through my body. I felt as if I was being torn into 1,000 pieces and reformed, my consciousness used as a child's toy. And then I was spat out. I barfed on the gray grass that solemnly clung to me. John lay beside me, eyes rolled back, red fluid still trickling from his mouth. I didn't have time to worry about him. Before me proudly stood what only could be described as a monument of sin, far from the light of hope it once was, now taken and calloused, abused and defiled by the filthy ideal of the damned scum. Its golden streets don't shine. Its security only harbors hate. Its cracked walls don't protect, they only confine. Even though I didn't know much about hell, didn't know its history or care about its purpose, I could see in that moment that I was looking at the greatest disrespect to the sacred that could exist. An empire built with blood and erected by desire. The Silver City opened its gate to me, with the intention of never letting me go again. The other collectors arrived, and one by one we were introduced to the next 40 years of our lives. The memories of this city are painful. I tried to ditch this shit given the purpose of it all, but a drag is necessary if I'm going to recall the decades I spent under that tyrant's rule. Passing through the rusty gates, the lower city is the first thing you see. Jack leaves this region of the Silver City for his merchants to sell their findings on the lower circles, where, everywhere you look, prostitutes and slaves accompany the more fortunate. Jack's personal guards take advantage of his authority to get everything they want without spending a penny, of course. Linked to the lower city by a rudimentary elevator, the pleasure zone casts its glow over those below. A neighborhood where the best drinks, drugs, and alterations can easily be found. Hunters and collectors usually walk around there, spending their earnings to calm their vices and complaining about the king's insane demands. But, by far, the most striking sight is a castle covered in soot. Built at the highest level of the city, where only Jack's personal circle can tread without being summoned. That's exactly where we were being taken. John was still unconscious, being carried by our captors. As we walked under the guns, naked and defenseless, the malicious glares of the vendors assessed us as new merchandise. My feet ached. Full of blisters, I couldn't feel my hands anymore. Looking at a toothless man being pulled by a chain around his neck, I wondered if that would be my fate. Desperation was beginning to consume me. We ascended to the pleasure zone by elevator, the same one powered by the brute force of several slaves harnessed to the wall, their hands raw from continuous and repetitive effort. The hallucinogenic fumes from the laboratories filled the street of the neighborhood. I felt my heart race, my skin tingle, and a sweet smell invaded my mind. The woman accompanying us seemed to recognize the substance as she lunged towards the source of the vapors. Mice kicked her in the stomach, making her kneel, grabbed her by the hair and laughed.
You fucking addict. You've used this shit before, haven't you? Look at the way you're trembling. If they don't send you to the brothel, I might have an idea of what to do with you.
She didn't seem to understand or care, drooling from her mouth and experiencing small spasms as the drugs filled her lungs. I wish I could say I avoided it, but this shit is strong. Within a few minutes, I was almost as high as when the succubus attacked. We then walked through the alleyways towards a staircase carved in marble. A sinner was overdosing against the steps. Mice shot him in the head and threw him aside. One moment he was alive, and the next, the remnants of his brain adorned the ground. I gasped for air, my vision darkening. I meant nothing to them. They could dispose of me whenever they wanted. I felt like I was going to die. I felt like I was going back to the tar pit, seeing myself suffering and being devoured for ages, running only to be captured, no rest, no warning. What kind of being would create such a rotten place? Why did he have the right to read my soul and throw me towards the flaming lakes? It's not fair. It's sick. As I climbed the stairs, stepping on the remnants of the sinner's mind, I wondered if God was watching me at that moment. Maybe he was having fun. The biblical hell holds a king. It shelters demons and powerful beings born from darkness itself. And, as you already know, beings made by the Creator's own hand. It wouldn't be at that moment that I would meet Samael, but alongside the self-proclaimed human king, I met his right-hand beast. When the doors of the castle opened, I fell to my knees on the ground. An angelic figure with the aura of pure evil. A feminine body dressed in white adorned with jade. 3 pairs of long and gold wings kept her hovering a few meters above the ground. On her face, a twisted helmet with an eternal black flame at its peak, portraying what was, what is, and what will come. The base of her helmet completely covers her eyes, squeezing them with such force that blood constantly drips to the ground. Her face constantly changes. A slender young woman, a frightened child, an irritated elder, a black goat, a hungry tarantula, an unnamed beast, an indescribable void. In her hands, a chain hangs a clock, which moves constantly. It tries to guess the hour that only he knows. Constantly wrong, corrects itself, recoils, recalculates, wrong, corrects itself, recoils, recalculates, wrong. Such a beautiful creature. Fell alongside the morning star with the 3rd of the stars, to forever hate us, to extinguish everything and everyone. Who was I compared to such perfection? Who was I compared to such obscenity? I felt broken. I felt complete. Terrified. Emancipated. 1,000 mouths sang in 1,000 languages in my mind, all equally correct, all equally wrong. The duality that leads to madness. In my heart, he introduced himself. Astaroth, the Grand Duke of Hell. With a flick of his hand, he disappeared, but I still felt him watching us, assessing us. Seated on a broken throne, there was the face of control. Almost as tall and robust as my captured companion, a short, defined beard adorned a ruthless face marked by battles. Gray hair and a leather cloak, a silver medallion around his neck, a shining red ring on his right hand, eating grapes like a Greek emperor. Jack graced us with his presence. Mice once again took the initiative.
My lord, we have found fresh meat of the highest quality to expand your empire. Mostly young and strong, and the old one is wise and knows the ancient rituals.
Jack looked at us as if we were worms, evaluating us like a spoiled child receiving gifts at Christmas.
You bring me trash and expect gratitude. If this is what you consider good quality, perhaps it's time to revoke your position.
Jack's ring began to glow, and I felt Astaroth's strong presence growing. Mice quickly knelt and spoke again.
My king, one of them appears to be marked.
Mice then looked at me with a malicious smile, sending a shiver down my spine. Jack observed me, the disdain in his eyes palpable. He seemed to notice something in that moment, scratched his beard and smiled.
Mice, I can always count on you to keep me entertained. Take him to the pit. Send the others to the dungeon. There may be something useful in this batch after all.
Before I could protest, I was struck on the head with the butt of a gun and I lost consciousness. Sorry, I need a moment. Just remembering the terrible nights I spent in that place makes me feel sick. Man, I hope smoking doesn't count as too big of a sin. When I woke up, I was chained to a wooden pillar by the neck, with several other sinners chained around me. The place was poorly lit, and I could smell feces and urine. They didn't even release us to go to the bathroom. In front of me, Jack stood with 2 guards.
Good morning, Sleeping Beauty. I'm sorry to disturb your rest, but I have some questions. And if you cooperate, you may find yourself involved in something much bigger and more important than your miserable life.
Screw you! I've seen the things that your people do. You're all crazy. I don't want anything to do with you. Jack's ring began to glow, and Astaroth's silhouette became visible even in the deep darkness.
For your own good, I hope you learn to have good manners. Now tell me, where is he?
What? The ring glowed, and Astaroth entered my mind. The concept of emptiness is terrifying. Non-existence is dreadful. Emptiness occupied existence before everything existed. In the beginning, there was nothing, and then there was God. My consciousness faded away. I felt the void corrupting my flesh prison. It's not a lack of senses. It's nothing. Sounds didn't vanish. They turned into nothingness. Along with sensations, memories, my existence. I was completely devoured. I wanted to scream, but there was no voice, no will. I wanted to exist, but there was never an I. I vanished completely. And then I was catapulted back into existence, where I could feel everything. The infinite. It destroys. Through Astaroth's eyes, I saw, I understood. Not even in 1,001 lives could I have touched 1% of the truth. My brain burned, flooded with everything that was, everything that would come. I cried. I screamed. Agony drove me to madness. Time made no sense anymore. Then everything stopped. In despair, I screamed. I cried like a child. Jack embraced me with the tenderness of a mother as I collapsed into his chest. He gently stroked my head while speaking softly.
Poor thing. So much suffering. So much lamentation. Pain is a choice, and I don't want it for you. I love you. I love all my possessions from the bottom of my heart. I only want what's best for you. But for that, I need your help. I want your pain to stop. Help me make it stop. You just need to tell me, where is he?
I didn't want to return to nothingness. I didn't want to suffer with knowledge. Desperately, I'd lied. I said I knew where whoever he was looking for was. I would show him, he just had to let me go. Jack acquired a sad expression, gently lifted my face, and said,
Oh, child, why do you lie to me?
With the scarlet glow of the ring, once again, I ceased to exist. Catapulted between 2 extremes. Blood streaming from my ears, I laughed, cried, begged. All to make it stop. For him to remove that being from the room. I just wanted peace. I felt my cells giving in, exploding and reconstructing. Memories were erased and returned, lived 1,000 times per second. My wife, my daughter, the drugs, the betrayal, the accident, the body, the hospital, the fall. Once again, everything stopped. I spat blood on Jack's cloak, who asked me again.
Where is he? Come on. Damn it, just tell me! He marked you! He touched you, come on! Where the hell is Samuel? Tell me and I'll leave you alone.
I pleaded. I tried to tell him that I didn't know who he was talking about. I promised obedience, my life, anything for mercy. Once again, he sent me to the void. For countless nights, the cycle repeated itself. I have no idea how long I was tortured in that place. Eventually, Jack began to use me in other ways. My days were divided between slave labor in the lower city and nights of torment in Jack's palace. At the time, I didn't understand how he couldn't see that he was wrong. Clearly, there was nothing special about me. I couldn't lead him to Samael. I was just a damned soul who could barely endure the first days in the abyss. I just hadn't realized that Jack already had the certainty that I was different. After all, how could I be a nobody if Astaroth couldn't extract the truth from me? And they had to resort to torture. Hope vanished from my chest. I didn't know if I would ever escape from there. If I would see John again before my soul was corrupted by the Grand Duke. The years dragged on, and Jack's fury only grew. Fortunately for me, in my 4th year in the Silver City, I gained a new cellmate. The old man who had been brought in the same group as me. Little did I know that he would be my first clue to the way out of there. I'm tired of remembering those horrible years, so I think I'll stop here for today. Clinging to hope in hell is as useless as using petrol to put out a fire. You'll only end up dying either way. But in the realm of insanity, it might not be all that crazy to think there might be a way out of the suffering.